Like, I come from a fairly big family, and we had one of these plus a van in order to shuttle everybody around. But if you need it, you need it, right? You're driving around a bunch of big people that are, 6, 7 feet tall. It's gonna be a necessary ride. But this thing is insane. Looking at the tires inside of this, we've got the options for 18s up to 22s. This is the 22-inch tire, but even then it looks fairly sharp. We've got this nice machined aluminum look. We've got the stealth appearance package, which gives it a black look instead, and that thing looks really, really sharp. So if you're a fan of more of that blackout package, that's what you're looking for. We've got a few options for under the hood, which we'll get to in just a second. We've got nice body moldings, rocker moldings, because this is the Platinum. We've got our Platinum badge along the very back. And then we've also got, as I mentioned, power deployable running boards. So we take our key fob, I'm not playing pocket pool, I swear, we unlock, and down they go. So the power deployable boards, they are either permanently down, we can have them permanently up, or we can have them automatically come up or down, depending on what's going on with the rest of the vehicle, which is amazing. Looking at the front end of the Expedition, we've got our front chrome tow hooks. The way that the tow hooks are gonna look will depend on the version of the vehicle you're in. Because if you're in the brand new Timberline that was introduced for the 2022 model year, you will have a very different look for the Expedition. And even when you get into those stealth packages, it'll look slightly different than what you'll find in some of the base. But this is the Platinum. We've got our mean looking grille cone pointing right at us there. Front facing, side mounted cameras, rear camera, which stitched together give us our full 360 view. And one of the amazing things being in this specific model, yeah, we've got that front facing camera. We've also got our front parking sensors, our rear parking sensors, and a park assist system. Because I'm not gonna lie, this thing is kind of a little bit of a beast. So having a system that can help it with both parallel parking, perpendicular parking, parallel park out is amazing. But we do have our LED headlamps, nice look overall, moving down into our fog lamps a little bit further down. But I think that Ford did a good job on the styling. But moving down, so right above our tow hooks, plastic part of the lower bumper, same idea, so we've got our nice bumper along the top there, but we've got nice contrast between those silvers kind of moving throughout the grille, kind of meshed in between our lights and things like that. So this thing lit up at night does look fairly nice. All right, so getting underneath the hood of the Expedition's pretty straightforward. So along our driver's side, we've got a little release. We just pull that twice in order to get underneath. So that releases it, but just underneath there, so above where the Ford badge is, we've got a little lever there. So we just got to crank that to the left. We pull it up to the left on hydraulics, which is amazing. Now, the Expedition technically only has one available engine choice, and that's the 3.5 liter EcoBoost that we're looking at underneath the hood, borrowed from the F-150, but this thing is absolutely incredible. Now, there's one available engine choice, but we've got 3 different options for power, because if we're in the base trim level versus if we're in the Limited versus the King Ranch or Platinum is going to be different than if we're in the Timberline or the Performance Stealth package. So the Performance Stealth and the Timberline are going to give you the most possible power, but this thing still is very powerful, even looking at any of the other options. So which way you go is going to depend on what you need, because if you're getting this to go off-road a little bit more, that high output 3.5 EcoBoost is absolutely amazing. But we've got a nice look overall, no sort of engine cover or anything like that. We could easily top up our wiper fluid and a few other fluids if we need to. Checking oil, a little bit more challenging. Like, I'm 6 feet tall, this is like F-150 territory right now. It's like I can just kind of reach the plug in order to be able to check oil, but realistically, just having your Ford dealer do it instead is probably gonna be easiest for most people. And having said that, you've got a few options, because as a Ford owner, you do have the flexibility of getting prepaid maintenance packages and things like that when you purchase your vehicle. One of the benefits, regularly scheduled maintenance is covered off at different intervals for different lengths of time. So if you're like a set it and forget it type of person, you just want it taken care of, the prepaid maintenance packages are amazing. When you get it at time of ordering from the factory, you can also wrap that into your financing, which is great. But overall, this is nice. I do love that it's on hydraulics, really good for a vehicle this size. We've got our battery, and then we've got a little fire shield over top. But overall, this thing looks pretty nice. Filling up fuel inside of the Expedition is straightforward, so along our driver's side, little capless system, just insert, fill up, and you're good to go. Looking at the fuel quality, so minimum manufacturer's recommendation is just your regular 87 gas, so regular fuel. Do you need to use a higher quality? Absolutely not. But if you want the truest performance out of this thing, especially on the high output that you're going to find in the Timberline and the performance packages, you're probably going to want to use a higher quality instead. You don't have to, but the horsepower and torque specs that were achieved underneath the hood were all done using a 93 octane. So minimum manufacturer's recommendation is just your regular 87, but truest performance is your 91. You don't have to use it. And the only time that I normally recommend using a higher quality fuel, especially in something like this, is if you're going to be putting it under a heavier load. So you're taking it off road, you're towing a heavier amount, you want to look at a higher quality of fuel instead, specifically under those scenarios. Towards the back end of the Expedition, it's crazy. Like I'm kneeling down right now and I'm like, oh, this is a crazy, crazy large vehicle. But few things. We're always gonna have our reverse wiper there, which is great. We've got our backup camera a little bit further down. Nice Expedition badge there. And we've got our Platinum badge along the bottom left. And then we've got the Max badge along the bottom right-hand side, because you guessed it, this bad boy is the Platinum Max, which is why this thing is such a beast of a ride. Now, one of the benefits down in the States, and that's something actually just for the drivetrain itself, you guys have the option for 4x2 or 4x4 for the majority of the vehicle lineup. Versus up in Canada, we've just got the option for the 4x4 instead. So 4x4, Platinum, Platinum Max, and it's the same way like the XLT, the XLT Max, etc. So we've got a few less options in Canada, specifically that rear wheel drive, but we still do have the option for that 4x4 with advanced systems and things like that. But the styling is great, very similar to what we saw on the front end. We've got those nice little highlights along the lower part of the bumper. The metallic highlight along the back underneath the Expedition badge, we're gonna find that metallic highlight inside of the vehicle, across the center stack, across a few of the other parts of the dash and things like that. So it is nice that they've kind of brought that exterior look into the inside. We've got the reverse sensing system there. Because this specific one does have the heavy-duty tow package, it's hidden just underneath the bumper, so we've got our nice little cutout there. That's one of the benefits of getting it done at time of ordering from the factory. Towing-wise inside of the Expedition is going to vary depending on what setup you've got, because we're going to be able to pull up to 9,300 pounds in this vehicle. But it depends on, do you have the regular or the Max? Do you have just the base XL? Do you have the Platinum? Do you have the high-output engines, etc.? So there are a lot of different factors that go into pulling in this vehicle. Inside of this vehicle, we've got the option for manual liftgate in the lower trims. Power liftgate there is an option. We've got foot-activated power on top of that, as it takes me out. So foot-activated power liftgate. And one of the cool things is that we also do have glass that's completely separate. So if you wanted to store a few things, you can do that very easily inside of this vehicle. All right, taking a peek along our driver's side door. So we do have, we can just kind of make it out, but we've got 5 different numbers there. So we could program in an individual number if we want to. We can press these bottom 2 in order to be able to lock the doors, which is great. And with intelligent access, we can just kind of make it up, but we've got a little hamburger button along the very top there. So we can push that in order to lock, or we can slide our hand in order to be able to unlock. So you can see unlocked, everything's kind of opened up there. We've got our side view mirrors, etc. But watch this, we go to lock it, using the intelligent access on the outside there, and that's going to shut everything down as well. But sliding in, let's take a peek on the inside. Look at this, look at this, look at this. Absolutely beautiful, but we'll get to the inside in a second. Taking a peek along our driver's side door, we have a lot of different options available and a lot of different looks and layouts. Now this is the Platinum Max, and this is why it looks the way it does. So we've got this great stitching, we've got a nice weave along the bottom of the door, and that carries through the driver's seat and throughout a number of different parts of the vehicle. But along the side, we do also have our seat memory buttons, so 3 individual profiles there, our unlock and our lock button. We can adjust what's going on with our side view mirrors, we can power fold our mirrors in, basic window up and down on top of that. We've got our handle. And from there, we've got our little B&O badge right along the side door there. Down a tiny little bit. We do have quite a little bit of storage space that's available on top of that. Now, it is a little messy on the driver's side just from me hopping in and out, but we do also have our Platinum badge, so along the driver and the passenger side. Moving along the side here, we do also have a few different options for adjusting our seats. So we can go forwards, backwards, up and down. We can move our backrest. We do have a little button in the middle, and that's to get to our massage chair seats, which are available for the driver passenger seat, depending on the rest of the vehicle configuration. But we've got quite a few different options that are available there. Now, moving inside, we may have a manual or a power telescoping steering wheel, just depending on the trim of the vehicle that we're in. Moving off to the side, we've got a few other options there. So this button is actually going to power fold the third row seats headrest down, so we can fold the headrests by themselves. We can open and close the trunk door. Down to the side, we can turn on our zone lighting for the driver passenger side mirrors, figure out what's going on with our running lamps, turn our fog lamps on or off, increase or decrease the brightness of the cluster screen. Then from there, we've got our parking brake, so we're going to pull to turn it on. We're going to hit the brake and push to turn it off. And then we also do have our power adjustable pedals. So if you're a little bit shorter, like this thing is a little bit of a beast of a ride, so knowing that we can adjust that easily is great. To get underneath the hood of the vehicle, all we're going to do, so you can see the release there, we're just going to give this a single pull in order to be able to unlock. Now the interior of this thing is unbelievable. Like, I love what Ford's done with this. As I mentioned, this is the Platinum Max version of the vehicle. So we've got some great leather across the door itself. We've got this nice stitching which follows all the way through the dash. Inside of the seats, driver passenger side, it looks incredible. Like, I love it. Ford's almost kind of taken the F-150 and they've shrunk it down. It's like the F-150 kind of interior with this armrest. They've taken the screen of the Mach-E and kind of thrown it inside of this thing. I love it. I love what they've done with this. But let's go through some of the basics. Now, if you're looking for technology walkarounds, so you want to know about the steering wheel cluster, the media screen, like how to connect Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, check down below for those walkthroughs, but it is a very straightforward process to do. But some of the basics, I love what Ford's done with the middle of the steering wheel. So rather than the traditional blue oval, we have this more unique look instead. I think it's something small, but it's also noticeable at the same time. We've got the option for adaptive cruise control, so we can control that on the left-hand side of the steering wheel. Along the right side, it's going to let us navigate through that fully digital cluster screen. And like, this was pretty much that's taken out of the F-150 with the look, the layout, the feel of it. As we move through different drive modes, and it just reminds me of the F-150 so much. It looks really, really sharp. But the steering wheel itself has some great highlights. We've got some nice metallic highlights throughout. We've got this like kind of interesting feel along the bottom part of the wheel. And like even some of those metallic highlights, they follow through, not necessarily part of the door, because that's a beast in and of itself. We've got this nice reflective material there, which moves through part of that center stack. We do have our little Bang & Olufsen badge along the very top. And because this is the Platinum version of the vehicle, we also do have Ford's Blue Cruise feature. So we can just kind of make out the Blue Cruise along the left-hand side of the screen there. With our little cameras, they're going to be watching our eye gaze. So that it takes the adaptive cruise control system to the next level, because that's fully hands-free driving. So as we are on the highways, or certain 400 series highways in Canada, series of different interstates down in the US, you wouldn't have to have your hands on the steering wheel. The vehicle would just drive. So self-driving, yes, but you also have to pay attention, because if you're sleeping, it's also not going to work. So it's a very smart system. I love the way that Ford's designed it, unlike what you've seen in some other self-driving systems. But it is nice that this is kind of Ford's real first foray into that idea of self-driving, and I think they've done a great job. But like I said, the steering wheel is great. Very comfortable. You might have a heated steering wheel, might not, but it's heated all around. It's really nice. Now, shifting over, we do have this nice kind of feel. It's interesting look, interesting feel there. It's pretty unique. I love what they've done. Like I said, that they stole part of the F-150, because along the side, just underneath the passenger side of the dash, we've got a little hidden compartment there, which is kind of neat. It's right above our glove box, so we can easily open and close as necessary. We've got our backup assist. So the backup assist is amazing, because if you're not a fan of counter steering the steering wheel, once your trailer's hooked up, we can just turn the backup assist on, and then all we have to do is just turn the knob one way or the other, and that's automatically going to counter steer for us. Really, really nice feature. We do have an integrated brake controller, so we can adjust as necessary there. And we are push button start inside the vehicle, so we can easily toggle on or off as necessary there. We have the flexibility for remote starting either through the key fob or using our phone app. So we can use the Ford Pass app on our phones on both Android and iPhone devices. But this screen, I love it. There are technically two different screen choices that are available inside of the Expedition, but it's really, really nice what they've done. This is obviously the larger, so the 15.5 inch screen, and this thing it's a beast. It reminds me of the Mach-E screen so much. But we've got a little hamburger icon that lets us change between the radio, phone, navigation, Android Auto, Apple CarPlay. We've got a fully digital owner's manual. If you want to, you can also sketch some things out. So if you want to save a note quickly, we can do that. Hi. So ridiculous, but we've got the option and we've got the flexibility to be able to do it. It's so neat what Ford's done here. We can see some different saved options. So if we've saved notes out previously, we've got a ton of different options for the screen. So if we look here, we've got an option for the 360 camera inside of this. The Platinum Max has it. So we've got our full 360 view. We can do a zoom in on certain places if we want to see what's kind of close around us. We've got our hamburger menu that lets us change that to our rear view camera instead with our parking sensors. We can also switch out to a front partial view, front 180 degree view, or a hitch view, which really useful if you're trying to back up into a trailer. If you want to be able to set the trailer up, it just makes it so much easier to be able to reverse in order to set yourself up there. So tons of different options, which I love it. We have a series of other things like zone lighting, which means that we can get some lights active on the outside of the vehicle. Really useful later on at night if you're working outside so you can see what's going on around you. We do have the option for massage chair seats, which is amazing. And that's for the first row, driver and passenger side, but I've got a butt massage going on right now. This is so nice. So you can get a butt massage going, lower back, which is useful because if you're going to be going on distance trips, rather than having to stop in order to stretch yourself out, if you get tight hamstrings, really nice for those distance trips. All right, and as we start to move down a little bit, so quite a few options that are available there. We've got our auto start stop system, so that's the one that's potentially going to kill power to the engine if we're stopped for an extended period of time. We've got our four-way blinkers. We can turn our traction control on off, and then we've got our max windshield defroster. So we do have one there, and then there also is one along the very top of the screen on top of that. So a few different places we can hit just that specific setting. And as you can see there, we also do have another tray. So this tray, we've got 2 USB ports. You might just be able to make it out. Let me make it a little bit brighter there. All right, so we've got 2 USB ports, and then we also do have a wireless charging pad. So if you've got a phone that supports wireless charging, that is where you're going to go in order to be able to use it. So it's pretty straightforward there. And as we can see, it's turning on there. Now this is a Samsung S9 Plus, and it is... Okay, so it's a little tight getting it in, but at the same time, there still is a little bit of give on the top and bottom. So in comparison, so this is an iPhone 7 Plus, which will be pretty much the same size as the 13 Pro Max. And that fits, it's tight, but it'll fit. So if you've got multiple phones that support wireless charging, or if you've got a phone that supports wireless charging, just knowing that it'll fit inside of that charge pad, we've got a little storage area down there. And then in order to shut this, we just push, and down it goes. So it's push and down it goes, not pull, because we've got a little mechanism there that if we pull too many times, we will break it. But very straightforward. Down there we do have our shifter dial. So we've got our park reverse neutral drive and then our manual mode. So we can press the plus or minus button there if we wanted to adjust what gear we're in as we go. Down from there, we've got a series of other options. So we've got our 2 high, 4 low, 4 high, and then our 4 auto. So what we're going to do for all of these is going to depend on what we're doing with the vehicle. 2 high is where you're going to be in the majority of the time. In the winter time, you're either going to go 4 auto or 4 high. And then our 4 low is if we're pulling heavy loads, if we're pulling a boat out of water, off-road, rugged terrain, things like that. We also do have our drive mode selector, so we can adjust what mode we're in as we go. We've got our normal, eco, sport, tow haul, mud ruts, sand mode, slippery, and then back toward normal again. So quite a few different settings that are available. And it is nice because you can adjust it on the fly. Now obviously with this one, you've got the 4 high, 4 low, etc. because this is a 4x4. If you were just in that 4x2 instead, you wouldn't have that option for these other modes instead. And from there, moving down a tiny little bit, you might just be able to see these buttons, 2 individual ones. So this specific one is going to be our hill descent control, which is going to let us set a certain speed. And then rather than having to worry about the gas brake, we just need to worry about the steering wheel. We also have this button, which is going to be for our park assist. So the vehicle can help us out with parallel or perpendicular parking. From there, we also do have some cup holders, so this nice kind of hideaway there. And we've got 2 individual holders there, and then button press in order to be able to lock it back up again. So very straightforward, but a nice look overall. We've got this nice stitching along the side, kind of moving up even through this armrest. So it does look fairly sharp, and I think they've done a great job here. And from there, we've got this nice leather armrest, which also does have a few cup holders back there for people in the back row. Lifting this bad boy up, we do have a little removable tray, and then there also is, you might just be able to make it out, probably not, but there's a little hidden compartment down there. And it's also, sorry, I shouldn't say a compartment. There is another hidden power point down there. So a little challenging to get to, but it's a 12-volt power point. So lots of power all over the place. We've got power in the front, power in the middle, power in the back, all over the place. But this thing looks sharp. Up overhead, we've got an auto-dimming rear view mirror, series of options for our base controls for our inside here, for all of our lights. And this one does have the panoramic roof, and it opens it up nicely. Like, look at this. Oh, let there be light. So, as you can see there, button press opens it up. And we've got a few different options. So we can either vent this thing out, so we can just press once in order to create a nice little cross breeze, or we have to close it and then button press in order to have the thing open up. Now, it doesn't open up the full way, but it still creates, as you can see there, a nice amount of sun. Single button press opens it up the most. Another button press opens it up that rest of the way, those last few inches, which do matter. So as you can see there, quite a nice amount of space that this thing opens up. So it opens it up really nicely. So you want to create that nice cross breeze. We do have this little kind of guard along the top, so bug guard and things like that. So it doesn't look like things will easily be able to get in. You get flying critters and things like that sometimes. Oh, not as bad as you might have to worry about if you're on a motorcycle, but the fear is still there for some people. So really straightforward. We've got so many different options that are available there. As you can see, easily open and close. One button press, as you can see there, closes it up halfway. Secondary button press, it looks like, yeah, it'll close it up that full way. So if you want to open and close it, one button press will open it up halfway. Or secondary button press either opens or closes it up that remaining way, but it's pretty straightforward. We do also have our sunglasses holder. We've got our home link system, so if you've got a garage door opener at home, we can program that in. We do have vanity mirror with built-in lights, a little business card holder, and this thing extends back to block any sun that may potentially be hitting our face. So it is a it's amazing. I love it whenever cars do that. Now, you might be able to see, maybe not from your vantage point, we've got some speakers there. We've got speakers along the passenger side. We've got some up along the very top. We've got our Bang & Olufsen badge, because this thing has the option for a 22 speaker sound system, which sounds amazing. Like, I'm just looking into the second rows now, and you can see all the other speakers in the back. So this is something I gotta do. We gotta do an audio test. Amazing song, amazing band, amazing sound. And you still have the option of playing with the treble mid-range bass if you want to really crank that bass and make this car shake as you go. The second row of the Expedition is like crazy spacious. So just to kind of show you for comparison's sakes, like I've got the driver's seat set up for somebody who's 6 feet tall, and like I've got probably like a good 6 inches of space between my knees versus where the seat would be. Up overhead, okay, overhead's a little bit tight. I've got probably about 2.5, almost 3 inches of space there. So not a ton of space, but the seats have a good amount of cushion to them. So if I was going to be on distance trips, I wouldn't necessarily mind being back here at all. Now, one of the cool things, we do have a little lever along the side we can use in order to fold the seat forwards if we want to, but we can also take that same thing and we can crank this seat back. So if you want to ride in style a little bit more, you've got the flexibility to do it. With that seat like that, this is crazy. 6 inches of space. So if you've got some taller people getting in that the middle row, all you have to make sure you do, just lean the seats back a little bit. Super comfortable all at the same time when you do it. And, ooh, there we go, perfect. All right, so very straightforward, like I said, super comfortable. Now, the second row is, you've got the option either, obviously, for the dual captain's chairs, like what we're seeing here. There also is the option, not for the dual captains, but for the bench instead. So the Expedition can have up to 8 seats, just depending on how you have it configured, because your base models are only going to have 5 seats, so we won't have a third row whatsoever. But inside of the majority of it, you'll have at least 7 seats, option 8, so just depending on how you have the rest of it configured. But having the dual captain's chairs to get into the back row, definitely a nice thing. I remember back when I was growing up, so I come from a family with 9 kids. I'm the third oldest out of 9, which is kind of crazy if you think about it. But I mean, there is so much space back here, which is great. But even it's funny, so even with the family with 9 kids, we still have the 2 parents, and my aunt was living with us at one point. So we had like 11, 12 people living in the house. So whenever we went anywhere, we would always have 2 cars. My dad had an Eddie Bauer Expedition, and then it was a Ford Windstar van that we had. So it was kind of crazy. We needed all that space because of all the people. It got kind of crazy at times. But something like this, if you've got a bigger family or if you just know you're going to be transporting bigger people around, useful. Very, very useful. But styling wise, this is really nice. It's very, very similar to what you're going to find in the first row. So this is the platinum model of the vehicle. So like the highest available possible option. Do you need to go with this option? No, but there is so much stuff that's available when you do. But I love the new highlights for the 2022 models. They've done a really, really good job of the redesign. Now this one does have the option for a 22 speaker Bang & Olufsen sound system, and the speakers all over the place in the second row. It's amazing how much stuff is back here. Overhead, we do have our handles there, so driver passenger side. There's a hook there. We've got some cabin lights that we can control in the back. And then we can also adjust what's going on with the individual fans for this second row. Some options in the third we'll get to in just a second. But this is really nice. We've got a nice handle along the side, along the driver's side door. We've got a little storage compartment, a lower storage compartment. There are a few different places we can put some stuff all over the place. We do have a few cup holders behind the armrest of the driver passenger, so behind that console there. We do also have pockets behind the driver passenger seat in the first row, so we can store tons of things all over the place. We do have a little screen along the back, which gives us tons of options. So we can adjust what's going on with our audio there. We can change out our media on the back here as well. So if we want to change it out, we could. Oh, and we can also seek back here. Oh, that's cool. Well, you know what that means. Audio test from the second row. Half volume right now. Like it's mind-blowing how good the audio is in this thing. I absolutely love it. But we can change between AM, FM, Sirius XM, all of our different media there. We can also see what's going on with our clock. We can seek, like I said, from the back here. We've got a few different power points. So USB, USB-C along the left side. Then there's 150 watts or a traditional wall outlet along the right-hand side. Down from there, a series of options for our cabin controls for for the vent. Oh, that's amazing. When I was playing around in the first row, I actually locked out the second row vent, so I can't actually adjust anything back here. But if I didn't disable the vent in the back, you'd be able to control the fan speed. You'd also be able to control the temperature. We can turn it on or off, have it go to our face or our feet. And then there are heated outboard seats. So you're never going to have third row heated seats whatsoever. You've got different options that are available depending on how the rest of your ride's configured for the second row. But if you do have heated seats, it's only going to be on the outboard seats. So middle seat is never going to be heated whatsoever. But it is nice all at the same time. Now down from there, we do have a 12 volt power point. And then there's a little storage area there. So not a ton of storage space, but still quite a bit. Now one nice thing, so I did mention the seats can actually fold forwards, backwards, but we can also slide the seat forwards, backwards. So if you've got some pretty tall people and someone's drawn the short straw, they've got to get into the third row, just knowing they'll be able to comfortably do it. So it is nice how much space is back here. But I want to show you something, because we can easily fold down this third row if we want to. There's a little lever I was showing you in order to recline the seat. We can pull that in order to fold the seat flat down, very, very simply. But there's also another option where we can, if the seat's up, we can also slide this seat. So there's a little lever right along the very top. We're just gonna pull, tilt, and slide. So if you've got the option for the bench, you have obviously got a few different ways that you can get into that third row instead. But at the same time, if you don't need the bench seat, having the options with the dual captain's chairs makes getting into the third row extremely easy. So very, very straightforward to do it. Now, obviously, if this seat was forward and I needed to get out through the door there, it's not impossible to do at the same time. It's pretty straightforward to do. But even in the third row, so these seats are locked into place. So I don't have the option of moving them forwards, backwards, but they can recline. So because we're a 60-40 split in the back here, hold on, I got to do something. There we go. Just so you can see this a little bit easier. But we're a 60-40 split for the bench in the back, and we can adjust as necessary. So forwards, backwards, there's a button on the outside of that left versus right side, so we can adjust each part of the bench individually in the third row. I'm 6 feet tall, so I had no issue getting into that second row whatsoever. Inside of the third row, oh, that's a seatbelt. I was like, is my head touching? That's actually crazy. Okay. I've got about maybe 2.5 inches of headspace there. So if you're taller, you'll probably be able to fit back into this third row so I've got this middle seat set up for somebody who's 6 feet tall. So passenger seat, first row 6 feet, this row 6 feet, third row 6 feet, and like I still have space back here. Like I've still got that same like maybe 2.5 inches of headspace there. I've got a few inches, again, same thing. I've got about 3-4 inches of space as well for my knees, good amount of foot space. So if I drew the short straw, had to get into the third row of the Expedition, I would not mind being back here whatsoever. We've got some nice things. We've got some cup holders for the third row, which is great. Some storage. We've got speakers in the back as well, like so we can recline. And we've got some power points. So there's a USB power point on the driver passenger side. And then there's also a 12-volt plug on the very back. You probably wouldn't be able to comfortably reach. I can just reach it. So there is another 12-volt power point in the cargo area specifically. But this is great. There is a boatload of space back here. Feature-wise is good. We've got the option of controlling our vents along the third row. We've got a hook. Ooh, we've got hooks on both sides as well, so if we need to hang some things up, we can. We've also got controls for our cabin lights in this third row. That's so neat. But a little bit more than I was expecting back here, which is great. And then one of the cool things is that if you ever need somebody in this jump seat, we also have our hidden seatbelt along the very top. Up she goes. But overall, I think Ford did a phenomenal job inside of the 22 Expedition. But one thing to point out, it's great for full-size adults, but one of the cool things, oh yeah, it is the case for the third row as well. Second and third row, we have our anchors and tether points all over the place. So if you've got front-facing, rear-facing child seats, you're not going to have an issue getting them into either the second or the third row, which is definitely a nice thing. One of the nice things about the Expedition is that we also do have, just underneath where our license plate would be, we've got our handle there, so we can push that in order to be able to have this thing lift up. And then depending on the version of the vehicle you're in, so it's a power liftgate, but depending on the version of the vehicle you're in, you might also have a foot-activated liftgate. So you've got a handful of groceries, golf clubs, kids, whatever the case may be, you're just gonna swipe your foot underneath. As long as you've got the key fob on you, oh, all the power. So it is pretty straightforward, but it is nice. And this thing, like I said, is a beast of a car. Like I'm 6 feet tall and I still have headspace here. It is wild. Now, one thing, if this is a little bit too big for your garage, you can actually just pull the liftgate down a little bit, and then we can just press and hold the button there. So we just press and hold until we hear a chime, and it's going to have it so that this is as high as it'll go. So we could adjust as necessary, however many times we need to find that perfect position for our garage. But let's take a quick peek at the cargo dimensions back here, because it's kind of crazy. And so cargo dimensions for the vehicle are going to be showing up. So we do have quite a nice amount of space in the back here. Now, one thing to point out, this one is the Expedition Max. So we will lose a little bit of space when we just have the regular Expedition instead, specifically in that cargo area. But one of the nice things is that the third row, it is a 60-40 split. So we've got 60 driver, 40 passenger. So we do have the flexibility of folding down one or both seats individually if we want to. We do have a button on the inside as well that we can use just to power fold the third row headrests on top of that. But it is nice. Like I said, we can fold down one side or the other if we want to. And then one of the cool things is that we also have the flexibility on using the buttons on the left-hand side here. We can also power fold one of the other seats. So it's a power release for the second row, but it is manual backup. But look at how much more space we have there. Now, one thing to point out, we do also have obviously the option for the bench seat. If we were to have the bench seat, we would have the 8-row configuration. So this thing's got the option for either a 5, 7, or an 8-seat configuration, just depending on what you need out of your vehicle. Now, a few things to point out about what's in the trunk area. So along both sides there, we do have this little hook, and that's along both the driver and the passenger side. We've got a little storage tray along the left side, and then outside of that, so a little bit of storage specifically for the third row. We've got a USB power point inside of that back tray for both the driver passenger side. And we also do have this little compartment that flips up. Same idea, this one flips up. And then we also have the flexibility, if we want to kind of create like a tiered storage instead. So if you need multiple areas of storage, you've got that flexibility. But just underneath, we do have 2 individual storage trays. We've got our little cargo net there. And then we've also got this removable tray, which is going to show us our jack as well as our spigot. So if we ever need to fill up using a jerry can, we're putting that white spigot in first. You've got the flexibility, obviously, of changing that tire out yourself if you want to, or you could call Ford roadside assistance. So if you don't want to worry about changing the tire yourself, you don't necessarily have to. The tire inside of this is actually located just underneath the vehicle. But overall, it's great. I love how we have these tiered storage options. So many storage options that are available inside this thing. Fold this thing down very simply at the same time. And you do have different options for different setups and things like that. So if you wanted to have a plastic rubber tray instead, you've got the flexibility to get it inside this vehicle. Along the right side of the cargo area here, we don't have anything really. Like, we've got another hook along the bottom, which mirrors what's going on that left side. A little hook up along the top. We've got a small light along the outside. And then there's also a 12-volt power point back here. So we could power some things up in the back row if we need to. And like I said, on the left-hand side, we've got another USB port, which is going to be the same for that driver-passenger side, specifically in the third row. Well, folks, that was a look at the 2022 Ford Expedition. I know, this thing was a little bit of a beast, but it's so nice all at the same time. And if you need it, you need it. But if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, share it with your social networks. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, do it. Until I see you next time, take care.